All right, and we are back here on the GSMC Football Podcast. And for the second part of the show, we are now going to get into recapping last night's Falcons Chiefs game. The Chiefs picking up the win, 22-17, and we will discuss what happened in that game right now. So, the Falcons, they had that comeback win against the Eagles on Monday night. The Chiefs, pulling off another win against the Bengals. And that game-winning field goal by Harrison Butker. So going into this game, I originally did have the Chiefs, but then I switched it to the Falcons in my spread pool. Right now I have 7 wins, but it'll probably stay that way. I probably lose both Monday night games, but we'll see. But yeah, this was an interesting game to say the least. The Falcons, they lost a couple of their linemen in this game. So, you had a backup center, and there was some miscommunication at times there. And, so once that happened, and the Falcons actually, on their first drive, they went right down the field. They got the ball first. They went 7 plays, 70 yards, almost 4 minutes of time possession, and Kirk Cousins connected with Drake London, who was wide open on the play for a 14-yard touchdown. I'm like, wow, Falcons are picking up where they left off against the Eagles. And then the Chiefs, they put together they dominated time of possession in this game. I think they finished, in the beginning, but, they still had the ball. They still possessed the ball for almost 35 minutes to the Falcons' 25 minutes. But still, it felt like they had the ball for a while at times. But yeah, this drive, they went 17 plays, 75 yards. They got into the red zone, and then Mahomes threw a bad red zone interception to Justin Simmons. So at that point, I was like, wow, Falcons look good. And, but then when the injuries started to pile up, with the line, I was like, well, now the Chiefs' D-line is going to feast. And, that is what ended up happening because Kirk Cousins ended up throwing a pick. He was pressured, and that led to an interception. So, but anyways, we go to the second quarter, though. Falcons are still up 7-0. Chiefs put together a nice long drive, 13 plays, 79 yards, a little over 6 minutes of time possession, and Mahomes connected with Rashee Rice for a 13-yard touchdown. So that tied the game. Falcons then answered with a touchdown drive set up by a 50-yard pass play by Kirk Cousins to Kyle Pitts. I was hoping he would score for fantasy purposes. Well, for Kirk Cousins because I have him in fantasy, but was just short. And then Bijan Robinson scored from 1 yard out. So that made it 14-7. Then the Chiefs answered with another touchdown drive, field goal drive. Harrison Butker from 53 yards out. That made it 14-10. Both teams punted, and this is what I was talking about. Kirk Cousins threw a pick right before the end of the first half, and the Chiefs, they turned that into points. So it was 14-13 Falcons at the half, but yeah, I did not feel good about the Falcons' chances after that. And the Chiefs opened up the second half with another field goal drive, Butker from 21 yards out. The Falcons punted. Chiefs turned that into a touchdown drive, 11 plays, 80 yards, 6 minutes of time possession. Mahomes connected with Juju Smith-Schuster for a 13-yard touchdown because Rashee Rice got hurt, did come back in the game. But, Juju made up for his drop in week 1 when he would have had a touchdown, and he gets his first touchdown of the season. But Butker actually missed the PAT. So, yeah, it was 22-14. Then the Falcons answered with the field goal drive, 54-yarder from Younghoe Koo to make it 22-17. Chiefs punted to start off the fourth quarter. Then the Falcons put together a nice drive. And, it looked like on 3rd and 5 from the Chiefs 6. This is the play that everybody was talking about. Cousins throws it to Kyle Pitts. I think it was Brian. Yeah, it was Brian Cook. He was covering Pitts and doesn't turn around to look at the ball, and should have been a pass interference call, but they didn't call it. And then they went for it on 4th down instead of kicking the field goal, and they didn't get it. So many people are pointing to that as why was that not called? And then the Chiefs went 3 and out pretty quickly. So the Falcons did get the ball back. There were a couple penalties. There was illegal use of the hands to the face penalty. Then there was defensive pass interference on Trent McDuffie. And then there was another penalty on the Chiefs, a horse collar tackle. So, then the refs started calling penalties on the Chiefs. And at that point, I'm like, well, the Falcons better win this game. But that ended up not happening. 2nd and 12 from the Chiefs' 24. Kirk Cousins connected with Drake London for 11 yards. And then the next 2 plays, Algier couldn't get anything on 3rd and 1. And then bad play call on 4th and 1. I mean, the Chiefs were expecting a run, and that's what the Falcons did. And Bijan Robinson ended up losing 3 yards. And that was the end of the game. Mahomes, he went 26 of 39 for 217 yards, 2 touchdowns, and a pick. The Chiefs ran the ball as a team for 128 yards in total. Carson Steele got the start, 17 carries for 72 yards in this game. Rashid Rice continues to produce 12 receptions for 110 yards and a touchdown. Travis Kelce, 4 for 30. Another quiet night for him. 2 for 17 and a touchdown by Juju Smith-Schuster. 2 for 17 by Xavier Worthy. Jamari Connor, he was the player that got the interception off of Kirk Cousins. A couple sacks in this game by the Chiefs. And then as for the Falcons, Kirk Cousins went 20 of 29 for 230 yards, a touchdown, and a pick. They only ran the ball for 82 yards. A quiet day for Bijan Robinson. 16 carries for 31 yards and a touchdown. Drake London, another decent day for him. 6 receptions for 67 yards and a touchdown. Mooney, 8 for 66. Kyle Pitts, 2 for 59. But yeah, Kirk Cousins, 2 fumbles in this game. Didn't lose any of them. Justin Simmons had the pick. No sacks by the Falcons defense in this game. But, yeah, when it comes to this game, the Chiefs didn't look great offensively. Their offense still looks a little bit off. Also, their defense, it came up big when it had to. But I feel like it's kind of taken I don't know, at least from these, first few these first few games, I feel like their defense has taken a little bit of a step back. I mean, it really doesn't matter though because they're 3-0. And we saw last year, when their offense struggled and the defense was kind of the strength of the team for most of the year, they still won the Super Bowl. So we could sit here and say, oh, man, the Chiefs, they don't look great. Well, despite that, they're 3-0. And, they got some guys banged up, of course. Isaiah Pacheco is going to be out for a while. And, this is kind of what they're going to have. They're going to be getting Clyde Edwards-Helaire back, and they did sign Kareem Hunt. So there could be some reinforcements in the running game. Although Carson Steele didn't – I mean, was he great? No, but, he was okay. And then you got Samaje Perine who could come in on 3rd down. And actually, Carson Steele got banged up in this game, but he did return. But yeah, Mahomes is still throwing some bad interceptions. That red zone pick. I mean, and it's not like he hasn't done that over the course of his career. He has, but it's just, those things you would think he would have cleaned up, but he's still doing it. And again, is it a major concern? No, because yeah, it happens. And the Chiefs still win games, and he'll come back and he'll bounce back. It's from a bad drive. But that does frustrate you at times when you see Mahomes do things like that, and you're like, he shouldn't be doing that. So, yeah, it happens. But despite that, the Chiefs won the game, and I know again, Kyle Pitts, that play in the end zone, that's what everybody's going to talk about. That would have put the Falcons at the 1, and we could be having a very different conversation. But the Falcons did get another opportunity, and they weren't able to, cash in. I mean, still, the play call with Bijan Robinson at the end of the game, they probably should have did something different. And, there's people probably out there that would argue, well, they should have probably kicked a field goal with Younghoe Koo, which I was kind of hoping for just, for the spread pool, because, at least if they lose 22-20, I cover the spread there, but that ended up not happening. And I get it, because you got Patrick Mahomes, and, I didn't really expect the Chiefs to go 3 and out like that, the second to last drive of the game for them. But the Falcons got the ball back quickly, and, if they went for the field goal and then they get the ball back, they would have been driving down to win the game, and they probably would have won. So you could look at it that way. But again, how many of us really would have expected the Chiefs to go 3 and out like that? You're giving the ball back to Patrick Mahomes. And, if they pick a first down, the game's over. So, but yeah, the Falcons, they dropped to 1-2 on the season. They take on the Saints next week at home, so that's going to be an interesting game because the Saints coming off of their first loss of the season to the Eagles. We'll talk about that game tomorrow. And then as for the Chiefs, they will be taking on the Chargers, who could be without Justin Herbert, who got hurt and re-aggravated his. Well, he was still banged. He was banged up going into the game, dealing with a high ankle sprain. But yeah, aggravated that even more in the game against the Steelers. And yeah, they could be without Herbert next week. So, the Chiefs right now are looking at 4-0. But yeah, an interesting game. As for the Falcons, you just got to hope that, they could make it work with the offensive line. Because the offensive line is doing a good job at protecting Kirk Cousins, in week 2. And, that first drive of the game, I was like, wow, look at the Falcons. I mean, they're ready to take off. And they end up losing this game. But I'm not worried about them. And especially when you see what happened yesterday around the league. I mean, the Buccaneers losing to the Broncos. The Falcons, they're still in this thing. And on top of that, the Panthers won yesterday too. So, yeah. Going to be an interesting division, to say the least. And as for the Chiefs, I mean, they're going to run away with theirs. So, before we go to break, I just want to remind you guys once again, but let me know what you guys think about this game. I just want to remind you guys once again before we go to break, to tip or donate, get your comments recognized. Make sure to go to the $ icon in the chat. This will help create a super chat. Any thought or comment you may have throughout the live broadcast, I will acknowledge it. And it just makes the show more lively, more entertaining between myself, the host, and you guys, the viewers. We appreciate your guys' viewership each and every day. So any contribution you can make to the show means the world to us. And also, the other way to help out the show is by going to the link at the bottom of the show segment on the ticker GSMCPodcast.net. So, when we come back from our second break of the show, we will discuss another wacky game between the 49ers and the Rams. The Rams picking up the victory. We will get into all that when we return from our next break. So, with that being said, stick around, and we'll be right back here on the GSMC Football Podcast.